Hi, everybody. This is Coach Bale. We are going to be working on our volleyball meeting. I'm going to try to put together the middle school and the high school all together. And so bear with me. I'm going to get the normal stuff out of the way first, and then we'll start talking about the COVID things we need to cover. Okay, so this year I want to introduce our coaches. We have some new coaches. I am the varsity coach. Coach Moore, who coached 8th grade last year, is going to be helping out with the high school. Also, Coach Grossenbacher is a varsity assistant. Coach Olson is our JV coach. Coach Stewart is our freshman coach. Coach Manini is moving to 8th grade this year. We want to welcome Coach Schultz, who is going to be our 7th grade coach, and our 7th and 8th grade coach who's helping out as kind of a floater coach is Coach McConnell. And so that is our staff. We can all be reached by our school email. And if you have other questions or need our cell phone numbers, you can always send us our school email. It's our first letter of our name, our first letter of our first name plus our last name at fruitportschools.net. You can find that on the directory on the staff page. One place that I wanted to share with you that you can always look at the calendar. This is the high school calendar that is connected on our Fruitport Trojan blog. So you'll see it's a Google calendar. You can view it this way. I believe you can view it as a calendar as well, just by clicking in, I think, or looking specifically at today. We have no practice today. And there is a spot for the FMS calendar, and this will be loaded. We're just working on switching over what their practice times are going to look like with our new adapted schedules. Also, there is a home button. This is not super updated. It is from last year, but we will be adding some new things to the front of that. So, okay, let me move on to our parent meeting. All right, let's see. So the first thing I just want to talk about is the Fruitport Community Schools Athletic Handbook and Rules. You have access to that through your final forms. One thing we need to talk about now that we know we get to go and play, your player fees are due to the athletic office ASAP. You can pay at the athletic office or you can pay through final forms, I believe. The player and parent handbook, we always follow the rules for that are in that guidelines of the handbooks. If there's any questions about grades or outside activity that's not appropriate, we always follow the high school handbook. I'm going to skip down before I talk about our trainer and just remind you, I know that this year is weird, and with hybrid schooling for our middle school and our high school, please help your child build a successful schedule for them so that they can continue to do well in the classroom. That is more important than athletics. We want them to make sure that they are able to get good grades and that they are able to be successful in the classroom. And this is going to be a challenge this year with not as much time with your teachers and more online learning. And in my experience, in elementary all the way up to high school, they need help building that time into their schedule and need your encouragement at home. Even if it seems like they should be able to do it on their own. Okay, so we do have new athletic staff. Our new athletic director, I don't have this as a part of my slide, is Johnny Morehouse. He's a fantastic guy. I've taught with him for lots of years at Shetler Elementary. He's going to be a great leader for our athletics program. And of course, we're wishing the best for Mr. Ernie and hoping that his retirement goes well and he has some time with his family. But Mr. Morehouse, Johnny is our new our new athletic director. Our trainer is still Pam Sima. If you have an injury, please make sure to contact your daughter's coach first, and then we'll see about getting them to the trainer. Unless it's an emergency, we really like to use the trainer's connections a lot of times on a sprained ankle or muscular stuff. Like, our trainer has the ability to refer them to a specialist or an orthopedic. So if there's an issue, a lot of times it's better off, you get to skip a couple steps if you see the trainer, and then she can help you get to the place that you need to go. So she is always helpful and ready. And so in the case of an injury, please just communicate that. Two just things that I think are really important to remind our girls and our parents. Please provide opportunities with kids, for your child to make good choices. I know there's a lot of temptations in high school and middle school. And so as the adults in our kids' lives, if we can provide opportunities where we know our kids are safe and the environment is controlled, it's better off. It makes for better opportunities for them to be able to make good choices. So, if you have the means to do that and you feel comfortable with that, it's always awesome to allow your kids and their friends to have a spot to hang out that's safe. One thing that continues to be a rising concern, please consider checking on your child's social media. Being connected in the elementary, middle school, and high school, that is a big deal. I know that there are a ton of TikTok videos that are not appropriate videos, and some of you would not want your daughter to do them. Or I always kind of tease my girls and say, it's appropriate if you could show it to your mom and not feel bad about it, or let your grandma watch the video and she would be okay with the way that you're acting or the words you're saying. So just please make sure that you're keeping an eye on that. Because that is an issue that we've had in the past. And when it happens on school property, then we have to kind of address that. So if you can just partner with us on that to make sure our girls are representing themselves as fun-loving, but also respectful young ladies, it will create good patterns for their social media use as they age. Coaching, if you're missing practice, coaches contact. Make sure that you email, call, or text us, whatever you feel is appropriate at the time, mainly because we like to know that your child's okay and that they're safe, and that it's just communicated well. I know at the high school, when they're late or when they're not there and nobody knows where they are, we always are a little worried about that because they are riding with or driving on their own, or riding with young drivers. And so just make sure that that is communicated. Your coaches should have shared or will be sharing contact information with you. And so that should be something that you can take care of. We like kids to be early to practice. We call it Trojan time. If practice starts at 4, please try to be there at 3:45, especially with screening and the chit chat and getting ready to go. We like kids to be able to have a little social time before we get started. I do also like kids to contact me if they're running late, just so that I am not worried about it. Make sure that kids are prepared for not just practice, but also game days. Make sure they're eating appropriate, they're getting good sleep. And a uniform issue that we always like to make sure we have is just make sure all their uniforms are in their bags. We, just in case somebody forgets something, then we have another option and we're not just stuck. And then as a parent, you're not running around trying to find the uniform so that your child can play. Playing time and coaches' decisions. I just want to reiterate, or communicate with you that there should be a chain of command here before you are worried about the playing time. Make sure you talk to your daughter about that first. As coaches, we are evaluating skills and you are there for support. We all need to work hard at this. We all have roles to play. Coaches, players, officials, please make sure you're being supportive. One thing that we have discovered as a whole unit with college volleyball moving to the fall, we tend to not have the world's greatest officials, but we do have officials that learn how to be consistent, and please make sure that you remember that that is a person as well. And if the officiating is impacting the outcome of the game, that the coach's responsibility is to take care of that. And as coaches, we know the rules pretty well. So please make sure that you are supporting the official as well as the players and coaches. One thing that I just would like to remind you of is that when you are sitting in the bleachers, you are often sitting next to someone else's parent, and you wouldn't want to hear your child's being talked bad about right next to you. So just remember, you are next to people. Kids don't make mistakes on purpose. We consider that as coaches. I think it's one of the things that helps us gain the most perspective. No child is making an error on purpose. They are just kids. Remember that we as coaches are doing what's best for our team and not just the individual. And we determine playing time on practices and how kids perform in practice. And so please just trust us. If you do want to speak with us about playing time, please make sure to respect that 24-hour rule after the game or the contest. I know for me personally, I don't like to communicate about playing time over email, mainly because I don't always feel like as a coach, you're best understood that way. I would much rather have a phone call with you or a face-to-face conversation to communicate so you know my intentions. It's very easy for an email to be interpreted a certain way, and it wasn't written that way. So if you have an issue with that or a concern, please make sure that you respect that rule, but also that you give the coach the benefit of the doubt that they are working to do what's best for the team, and that we're not trying to make bad experiences for kids, but we do have to make choices. Just a few quick reminders, especially through the season and just moving forward with kids, growing and having successful lives. We really work on trying to encourage them to understand what healthy eating is and how to fuel their body with good food, and how to stay in shape. I think that a lot of our athletes continue and love to play in sports. And I think it's important for them to understand as we age that these exercise habits and healthy eating habits are really good for our future. And so I just want to, remind your child, like, we should not be pounding Mountain Dews before games, or, to making smart choices with that. And if you need help, Pam Simon's always willing to help, and so am I, or your child's coach. We always try to encourage that. School and life choices. We really want our kids to be leaders in our schools, especially, being involved in athletics. You are looked at differently, or are looked at as someone who is a representative of Fruitport High School or middle school. So we really want to teach you to learn responsibility and be respectful at school, to your teachers and to your peers. And if you have an issue, coaches are always willing to help coach you through working through a problem that you're having, or a way to solve issues that might be causing you stress or strain in the classroom. And so please just make sure that you communicate with us on that, and tell your daughters we are more than willing to help on that. So one thing that's specific to the high school, we do have construction at the high school, and it's impacting gyms. So the small gym is like a dust bowl right now. And so we've got the September calendar done, but we are really hoping to make sure we get the small gym back in October for practices. Freshman, JV, and varsity are kind of rotating a day where we all kind of would take a late practice throughout the week. It's not ideal for Fridays, but right now we don't have a choice. So we are working to make that work, and hoping we get the small gym back in October. Okay, I'm moving on to COVID changes. Okay, so all participants, and this is the one where everybody is cringing, and we are doing our best to be positive, and we're going to do our best to make this work for kids. Participants are required to wear masks during practice and competition. We know this is going to be hard. I do not want us as coaches to tell your kids what masks they have to provide. So I put in there that we're not providing masks for you. If you have trouble getting a mask and cannot afford that financially, we will get a mask for your child. The reason I have this in here is because I want your kids to find a mask they feel comfortable in, that they feel like they can breathe in, that they feel like stays on their face. I know that, just an example, us coaches all bought Fruitport volleyball masks, and 2 of us love them and 2 of us hate them. So I want our kids to have something they feel comfortable in, and they can recognize that they they can breathe. So coaches, we will have extra masks in our bags, in our coaching bags, in case someone forgets to bring it. We'll make sure to have some alternate masks for kids. And we're going to take into consideration how this challenge of wearing masks during physical activity is going to impact our kids. So we've already talked a lot about how that impacts practices and mask breaks during that time, and just the physical activity that is required for volleyball and using a mask. Okay. So that is something we understand is going to be really different. We are going to continue to screen kids before practices and competitions. If the players have symptoms, they will not be allowed to participate. And we will also do this before the bus leaves. So let's say Nicole has a fever on Wednesday, and I didn't know I had a fever before I got to school, and that ends up being the case, then I will not be traveling, because that's not safe protocol. Another portion of this new restrictions are spectators. Each player is going to be allotted 2 tickets per competition. That means I guess you can decide who those two people are going to be, but each player gets 2 tickets for games. We are asking spectators to social distance and wear a mask while they're in the gym. And I guess I would just say that no matter how you feel about masks and social distancing, we want our kids to be able to continue to play sports and we want you to be able to watch them. So please make sure that you are considering the restrictions that are, or the recommendations that are made for that. Okay, we are working on the ability to try to live stream all of our conference games. I know that this is a work in progress right now, and I'm doing my best to work on it. I know how I can do it with varsity, and I am working on how I can be able to do it with JV and freshmen. If you have some experience with technology and you are a 7th, 8th grade, 9th or 10th grade parent who says, yes, I know how to stream games to Facebook Live and I am willing to be able to use my phone to do that, and I have a tripod and all that jazz, talk to your coach, because our big issue is we always video our varsity games. And so that's a simple one, but we do not have individual video cameras that can be connected to a network to be able to video our lower level competitions. Okay. So if you're interested in helping out with that, just reach out to us. Saturday competitions. Now, we have them left on the schedule. Fruitport is keeping all of our invitationals. They still say invitationals, but tournaments are not allowed right now. So what they basically are is that they are a quad. There are 4 teams allowed. In each of the games, we'll play 3 games to 25, no matter if a team wins the first 2 games, so that kids can get more play. And usually they'll start at about 8:30. We played in one on last Friday, and it took about 3.5 to 4 hours to complete. So kids are getting good play, good experience, and there's there's about 10 minutes between each match, but it's pretty straightforward and we play the whole time. So that's what our Saturday competitions in Fruitport will look like. And we will learn more about if we're going to a different school on a Saturday. I would assume most schools are going to this format so that you're not driving, an hour and then playing only for an hour. So just making sure that you guys understand they still do say there's tournaments and invitationals, but they really are quads, just in a little different format. Busing to competition. Masks are going to be required while we're busing to competition. We will not be allowed to eat on the bus. So this is kind of, I'm going to talk about high school first and then middle school. You guys can communicate your preference on this. So usually our kids get Subway orders and eat on the bus, but that's not going to be allowed. So when we depart, my thought is JV and freshmen, you guys should eat before we depart to play your games. So your games are going to be starting at 5:00. So making sure that if you're at school that day that you have something packed before you get on the bus, because when you get on, you're not going to be allowed to take your mask off and eat on the bus. Okay. Varsity players, I believe that if you pack a lunch or pack some food, and when we get to our destination, we could just choose to eat outside there so that you have a little sustenance before we get playing. So I know that's going to be in your preference. It doesn't really matter to me what you choose to do here, but I do know that when kids are at school, they need food before they play. Usually they get hungry. So make sure to make a plan for that, because we cannot do the Subway meals on the bus anymore. Middle school coaches, just communicate what you would like your kids to do for that. We are going to be more relaxed on the parent transportation home because of COVID attendance restrictions. We really love for our kids to stay and watch. And we like our varsity kids to watch the freshmen and JV players. And the same with 7th and 8th grade. I just don't know how that's going to work. So I'm not sure at this time, like even if the varsity team, when the freshmen and JV are playing, we may have to be at a different location and not be in the gym because of the amount of people in the gym. And I would hate to say, well, our varsity team has to be inside. So that meant less parents could come and watch. So we are going to be more relaxed about if you would like to take your child home, because we talk about exposure being 15 minutes 15 minutes or more within 6 feet of a range from people. And that happens in volleyball and it will happen on the bus. We are going to try to minimize exposure. So if you are at the game and would like to take your child home, I will find out what that needs to look like. I think there is a bus form that you need to fill out before you leave, but we are not going to be requiring or asking kids to make sure they stay for the varsity match, and vice versa, and in 7th and 8th grade. Coaches just take care of that and how that looks, okay? The other thing we're going to be minimizing, especially I think on a Saturday quad, we're just going to work on exposure time. And to me, the bus is not a place where there's a whole lot of room. So if we're somewhere close, like let's say, oh, that says Mona Shore. Sorry, there should be an S on there. If our JV have a tournament at Mona Shores, we may just say parent drop off. And pick up for that, so that we are not having that bus exposure. So that will be communicated ahead of time, so it won't be some sort of surprise that there's not available rides. And if there isn't, we will make sure that kids that don't have a ride get the opportunity to have one. Food and team dinners. I know that we love to host team dinners before kids play, and buffet style tournament food spread is something that happens a ton in volleyball. That is not going to be allowed. There will be no coolers or buffet style food during competitions or team dinners. So meals and plates must be put together or served before players arrive. So let's say you choose to order Subway. Awesome. You do a Subway platter. A parent can serve those plates out and get things ready. Or ahead of time, maybe you made spaghetti and fettuccine Alfredo. Coach could just text you, hey, we need 6 fettuccine Alfredos and 4 spaghettis, and so that those things can just be put together ahead of time. There is some challenges for that. Team dinners should also be outside. At Saturday tournaments and quads, all players need to bring their own food. There will be no tournament food list. So that will be different, but hopefully it'll just be for a little while. Protocol if a player tests positive or gets exposed to COVID. So the most important thing here is that we just communicate any of our concerns. I know that a lot of times we've had this this mantra in athletics to just push through even when you're feeling sick or when you're tired or something doesn't seem right, and that needs to stop. So in the world we're living in right now, we need to make sure we can communicate if we have any concerns. Okay, we need to be transparent about all of this, and we want all kids to be able to participate. But I know that nobody wants to be the reason that your entire team has to quarantine because we weren't being safe. So I just want, you to make sure that you talk to your kids about being honest about their symptoms. And if they feel weird, and if something doesn't seem right about how they felt during the day at school or at home, or, or maybe they have a low grade temp, we're just going to take precaution. It's just really important that we make sure that we're safe so we can continue to have a season and we can continue to keep kids healthy, and coaches healthy as well too. And also the staff that work at volleyball games. I know if you take a look at some of the people who are doing books or officials, they are in a higher risk population, and just making sure we consider that. There's not going to be any type of punishment for missing practice if you felt like you had a sore throat and you wanted to be have some precaution. And so you just need to communicate that with us so that we know. Okay. Again, I talked about exposure and what that means. And really, we do this in volleyball. I mean, there's not a whole lot of ways to prevent it, and that's reality. And so that we need to be taking precautions to make sure that we're being safe and we're keeping kids and families and officials and workers healthy. If we do have a positive case or an exposure, we will refer to the health department. Those guidelines are constantly changing, so I didn't list those down there. We will make sure my step would be, or any of our coaches, is that we talk to Pam Sima and Mr. Morehouse, and right away we refer to the state and county guidelines for kids. So that is our parent meeting for right now. I'm totally certain that I forgot something, because I just remembered that we are going to do a little fundraiser. We're going to do a SNAP fundraiser, which just involves people using a contact list and asking to donate to our program. That will come out in a couple weeks. I want to try to get things and the craziness kind of settle down and get into our season a little bit. And then we will be working toward doing a little fundraiser not selling anything, although just asking people to donate. So, yeah, like I said, I'm sure I forgot something, and but I wanted to create this video so that you had some ideas about how things were going to go and travel and transpire, and that we're excited to get started. And that I think the best thing that we can do right now for our athletes is, we have a bunch of mountains and challenges and all these things that we have that are unknown about our season, and playing in masks, and it sucks that we don't have tournaments, and it's hard that we can't do all these things that we used to do. But I do feel like we get an opportunity to play. And in the spring, kids did not get that. And I think that we need to take precautions, and that we need to be vigilant about doing our job to make sure that we stay healthy and that we stay positive, because that's what our girls need from us. So you will see that from us as a coaching staff. And if you have any questions or you need anything, make sure that you reach out to your coach and communicate. And just remember that your player fee is due as soon as you can get that done. Okay? Thank you so much. Bye-bye.